Hello there and a very warm welcome to another edition of Channels Beam. I'm Victor Matthias. Now, the National Gender Policy was formulated in the year 2006 to ensure that 35% affirmative action is achieved in Nigeria. The policy demands that women should constitute 35% of those involved in all governance processes. Over a decade after, this is yet to be in place, and today on the program we will be looking at why this is so and what can be done moving forward to change the narrative and ensure that women are well represented. And joining us to look into this is Olubumi Ayontunji. He is a legal practitioner, a legislative draftsman, and a child education advocate with an unwavering interest in public policy. We also have with us Abosede Alimi. She is a tri-sector leader with years of experience working across the non-profit, private and public sectors, as well as a development professional. Also joining us is Indi Kato. She is the executive director of Dini Dari Foundation. But Abosede kicks out this conversation for us. Why are we where we are today in respects to, having this representation of women in governance, even in the private sector? I don't think that is, yet to be achieved. Why are we where we are?
So, thank you very much, Victor. I can see that you are almost saddened by this reality.
Absolutely.
But it is pathetic. 2006, so we're talking about over 15 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And there are a few things. And I think, for some of us who actually do this work, it can be really concerning that we keep talking about it over and over again. But I think the first thing is just that we are in a deeply rooted patriarchal society where social, cultural, and religious beliefs really have informed gender norms and what people consider that women should, can do, or cannot do, should be doing, or should not be doing. So based on that, people have not given women a chance to lead. And that sort of goes top to bottom. So whether this is because that policy that you made reference to actually specifically states in elective and appointive offices, right? So whether this is in appointive offices, women have been given greater opportunities in appointive office because it's obviously a more straightforward process. If somebody considers you competent and qualified for a role, they would give you the opportunity. But as you can imagine, women are seldom given those roles than men. When it comes to elective office positions, however, women have done really poorly. Today, we're at 4.1% women's representation in this country. It is really bad, right? And what that looks like is that in a Senate of 109 seats, we have only 7 women who can advocate for the rights of girls and for women and for everybody. So I think there's a deep social, cultural, and religious challenge that has really impeded women from being able to vie for these positions. But when it comes to this policy specifically, there's no political will to actually implement, to ensure that if you've gone through the policy, it's a really good piece of work. It has actually even been updated as at 2015 or 2017.
Yeah.
And there's a whole framework for implementation. There's, a framework as to how we will cascade down to the agencies and everything. But implementation is just the challenge.
I think we always come up with, beautiful blueprints and policies and documents, but the bottleneck is usually always implementation.
Absolutely.
But let me quickly get to Abuja studio, and I'm here from our guest in the studio there. Abosede has given us, somewhat of a history or some reasons as to why, we are where we are. But in your own perspective, why do you think, or how do you think we can move forward?
Thank you very much for having me, Kyrie.
Of course.
Abosede there has really been expository with everything she said. Yes, the national gender policy was reviewed in 2017, I think. But the major problem I had with the policy was the fact that it didn't include the drivers of implementation, right? It's quite comprehensive, but then who drives the process? We have very beautifully written laws in the country. Aside the NGP, that's the National Gender Policy, Nigeria is signatory to the SDGs, and SDG 5 actually talks about gender equity, and that transcends to political representation. I have always believed that power is not served a la carte, and beyond advocating for women's representation in power or governance as it may, we need more women to drive the process of legislation. This would be awesome if we have a law like that in Rwanda, that probably states clearly, that encourages the participation of women in politics. Most of the time, the female, for example, the female senators that we have and the less than 30 that we have in House of Representatives are not enough to probably lobby and drive the process of passing the bill. But then starting it would at least help. We need women to probably go from advocating to actually stepping into the game, as it were. Now, we've had complaints that political parties have actually reduced prices, for example, for buying forms for ladies. But then the problem is, after reviewing the price, they call them to a political meeting and tell them to step down for their male counterpart. And that's not written in the policy. That's the real politics, We need women who would actually stand their ground, though lose, would come back over and over again, and their presence will be made known. I think practically, we need to be practical with women being in government. During the time of President Jonathan, we had a very, very encouraging representation of women in government. We had about 12 female ministers then, and we had enough head of agencies that are women, but it has drastically reduced, probably because the whole drive actually lost momentum, and the drivers of the policy or implementation of the policy that was adopted by the government itself really, really waned in strength. But beyond that, we need to go beyond, I wouldn't say beyond advocacy, just beyond policy and written documents to actual actions. I believe power isn't served a la carte anywhere, and women would actually do more, should actually do more than, and this is not indicting anyone, by the way, than advocating to actually acting. Thank you.
All right, so I mean, I kind of got interested in some of the things you said, but most specifically, you said power is not going to be served a la carte. So at least we have, like Abosadi said earlier on, we have quite a number of women, in the National Assembly, that's in the Senate now as it stands. So maybe that advocacy needs to start from there. I don't know, but I don't know how it works. You are there, you are the legislative draftsman, and you work there. So has there been any move? Again, we're not trying to indict anybody, just like you said, but has there been any move by those in the assembly to ensure that this representation is achieved?
Yes, very much. Senator Biodun Olujimi from Ekiti State is really doing a very, very splendid job as regards trying to push for bills that actually encourage women in governance. But then we should know that beyond what we're being taught, the first reading, second reading, public hearing, and the rest of it all, getting a bill to pass in the National Assembly requires a very, 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 very in-depth lobbying processes, And the fact that, one, there are not too many to probably lobby their male counterparts, and I wouldn't want to indict the other senators, but I see from my experience in the House that, even the female representatives do not have this, I would say, cohesive voice, this coherent voice to demand for what they want. You have probably some senators pushing for these bills and their female counterparts still opposing the same, and for me, I would say that female representatives, for example, in the National Assembly, first of all, would need to get their acts together before probably pushing to the House and lobbying their male counterparts. It goes beyond presenting the bill so that people would see. It goes beyond writing a very fine piece of legislation. I think we require female legislators that can actually go through the process of lobbying and conscientizing their male counterparts to actually support it. But to be very fair to female lawmakers, currently in the 9th Senate, for example, they are doing a lot of work concerning female representation in government.
Well, that's pretty much very heartwarming to hear. But I'll come back to you again in just a moment. Let me come back to Abosede. I mean, heartwarming, I must say that there are people actually making moves to ensure that this happens. But in all of this, one of the things because while he was talking about women contesting for elective positions, and they get pressured at a point, so that is on one part. On another part is the fact that you need money to run elections. Funding is actually quite a problem when it comes to running for elections. I mean, in that regard now, what is being done now, let's say, come 2023, to ensure that, women are financially empowered, to stand their grounds, when
Yeah.
it comes to the time and say, okay, we'll match you money for money,
Yeah.
in terms of seeking elective positions.
So I just piggyback on something that he said. So he's right. Senator Biodun Olujimi is currently pushing the Gender and Equal Opportunities Bill that actually makes similar recommendations for women to be represented at all levels of decision making and power, right? And this is not only limited to the public sector or to elective office, but more specifically, we actually have a bill that has passed second reading on the floor of the House, and it's been sponsored by the Speaker of the House and originally sponsored by Honorable Nkiruka Onyejocha, right? And this bill is for reserved seats. So specifically pushing for additional seats for women. And if you followed the history of an attempt to have legislated gender quotas or affirmative action in the previous assemblies, you will know that it has been thrown out oftentimes at first reading. So this is the first bill that has progressed significantly, and like I said, has a really good support from the House. And the reason is that there is a clear indication that we want women to do the work, which is create additional seats that women will run for. That way, it doesn't threaten anybody's, current seat. Now, is this the best? No. Right? But I really think that we have an opportunity, because I think we should make it clear that when we say that we want more women in positions of power and decision making, it is because the evidence points to the fact that when we have women in these positions, everyone benefits. And I think that that point is really, really critical, so that it's not just a male and female conversation, because I think that's where we lose a lot of people. But the truth is that there is evidence that shows that there's a correlation to better development, better livelihoods. Women have a redistributive agenda that actually benefits everybody. So we're currently pushing for the reserved seats bill that will ensure that there are additional seats. Now, what is the major concern for most people? It's the wage bill. Some people consider our, National Assembly to currently be bloated, right? But I think the question we're asking is the cost of not having women versus the cost of additional seats is just incomparable. Now, to your point as to what we're doing.
Let me just hold you for a bit. I'm already getting super excited and I'm getting carried away. Let me just hold you for a bit. We need to take a quick break. And of course, when I come back, you come back, to my question. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back in a moment. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We still have with us our panelists right here in the Lagos studio as well as the Abuja studio. Just before we took that break, Abosede Alimi was actually talking about, correlation between having women in position of power and development. And just before then, she was about to also speak on the fact that, funding, is quite a key problem when it comes to elections. So just quickly, as we wind down now, just tell us what has been done, moving forward now to ensure that women are empowered financially, for the contest coming ahead.
So, of course, organizations like ours, Elect Her, we are being intentional about providing the resources that women need to run for office. Now, what we've been able to do is really disaggregate what do women need money for, because I think the emphasis on money is actually what we want to move away from as a country. Exactly.
No, but I think elections are expensive.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly. But then the question is, what is that money used for? So human capital, for example, is it logistics, right? Is it what exactly, where does the money go? Media, communication, exactly, posters, and things like that. And so we're looking for ways, creative ways, that we can actually become a resource center for women who want to run for office. And if you look at the history, of women running in this country, they actually do not make it on the ballot. And so, like he said earlier, you tell me that I should buy forms at a much cheaper rate, but then when the time comes, you tell me to step down because parties, political parties, do not see women as viable candidates, right? So they think they're setting themselves up for failure if they're putting a woman against a man who will come from another political party. And I think what we're trying to do with the work at Elect Her is democratize politics and ensure that we make women viable, competitive candidates ahead of 2023.
Well, I'm rooting for you. I'll
Thank
be
you.
here. I mean, I can't wait. I really want to see that progress. But let me just quickly also hear from, Abuja Studio. So I'm looking at moving forward. What do you think can be done, to make because now we're seeing that funding issues, are going to be sorted, hopefully. But apart from that, what else do you think can be done to move or to change the narrative?
Thank you very much. I don't know where Abosede got data from about it's been proven that women has done better and the rest of it all. But then I think coming from what she just said, the first thing for me, right, is that the limited women that we have currently in power, how far or how deep have they gone as regards their constitutional duties? How good are they at their job? And that alone actually is the best campaign. Senator Olujimi, I would refer back to her again, is doing a whole lot of job. The senators representing Anambra, in Anambra currently, I think we have 2 female senators. They've done well, considerably well, and that's why their constituents would always, send them back to the house. I think the best form of advertisement or the best form of campaign is to show your results. And gradually people get to buy into the campaign of, I think it would be better to have women there because they do better. Nigerians are not blind. Nigerians actually see. They would always reward good behavior. And going forward, right, I think elections all over the world, especially democratic elections or democracies, are very costly. They're cost intensive. And I wouldn't want to say that we do not have women currently in Nigeria that cannot match their male counterparts, funds for funds. Let me put it that way. We have enough of them. But the idea with the good work Electa is doing, the idea is to get most of these women to probably step into the game or probably support the persons that actually want to go. It would really go a long way. But I would not say there should be. Currently, we have the electoral bill, the electoral, that's probably pegged amounts to be spent by candidates and political parties, but then is that being added to? No. I'll touch on the bill, the reserved seat bill. I think the bill currently, I don't know the amount of lobbying organizations like Elect and the sponsors are doing, but the conversations or the contradictions against the bill is quite bigger than the nays. Let me put it that way. The nays are bigger than the yays because of very obvious reasons. Would you be saying, is the bill infringing on the constitutional or fundamental rights of other citizens, as in male citizens?
Let me just hold you there for a bit. I mean, I hope that, all of those things that you're talking about, I'm sure Abosede is hearing, so they would also, make sure that, all those things are looked into. But let me quickly just get to Zoom, where we have Ndi Kato joining us. Ndi, it's a pleasure to have you on the program. And of course, a lot of water has gone under the bridge since the program started. But we're just pretty much looking at ways that the narratives can be changed, in terms of having more women in political offices, that's elective offices, as well as also, in governance generally. What do you think can be done moving forward, quickly, as we wind down?
Okay, quickly, I met with a journalist a couple of days ago, a journalist from Premium Times, and I have to outline the need for the media to cooperate with us. Media needs to cover women in more instances than being victims or being villains. Right now, we're talking, of course, of more women in politics. Thank you to your program, actually. You do feature quite a number of women on several issues, but the media needs to do more. We need to be seen as solution providers. We need to see us to be seen as leaders, to be seen as powerful entities. So we prefer a lot of more reportage, especially in more shows, more coverage on women, talking about political issues, talking about national issues, not just gender issues. So we must bring more women to the table to be seen as that. I've said several, I've given several talks on 35% affirmative action, but my own point of view is that we need to go for this at the political party level. Right now, for parties like the PDP, of course, that have gone to the polls, to the convention, sorry, at their party level, it's already too late. And we can't start this fight always at the time that is almost at election or a year to election. I don't think so. I think that after an election cycle is done, we look at what we got wrong and kickstart immediately towards getting the next one right. In fact, the next two ones right. That is how you get these things right. So for a lot of the things that we are seeing now, I feel like it's fire brigade approach, and we're just going head on with that fire brigade approach. And after election, everybody goes to rest. Can we take this fight for a long distance? Let's look at it as a long distance race, as not an occasion, but a series of things that, look, if put together well and if the dots connect well, we'll get to where we want to go to. So for me, that is that. Let's start pushing now. 35% affirmative action from the grassroots of political party, from the ward level all the way to the national working committee level. And because a lot of these political parties tend to select, it is possible, if you are deciding that you want to put your own person as chairman of the party, as the vice chairman Northeast, vice chairman Northwest, then you can decide to put a woman. We must also look at the women's wing of a party. Women's wing gives women power. We need to look at that. Why I'm saying things that have to do with the grassroots is, if we continue having this conversation at a high level, at a middle to upper class level, it is elitist. Without women at the grassroots, we can't have some level of power in this country. Then we need behavioral change. We need to look at government agencies, movies, everything that puts women in a certain light, that continues to exalt this misogynist culture, and actually reach out to those places to ask for a change in narratives. I think we're almost out of time, so I'm going to stick with this one. But since you are from the media, Victor, you owe us coverage, you owe us reporting when a woman sneezes in power, not just when a woman's house is attacked. We want to know the kind of
India, I have been doing that, like you said earlier on. But of course, I have to say thank you as always, for being a part of the program. Ndi Kato, you are the executive director at Dinidari Foundation. Also, Ayotunji Olubumi, he is a legislative aide. He joined us from our Abuja studio, as well as Abosede Alimi. Thank you as well also for joining us on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
This week's top 5 videos kicks off with the arrest of a fake soldier wielding an AK-49 alongside 2 other suspects in Nasarawa.
At about 1900 hours, one Timothy Emmanuel, M of Bakin Chiyawa Village, Kampam, local government authority of Plateau State, was intercepted along BAD Road, Lafayette, wearing military camouflage, in possession of AK-47 rifle with 2 magazines.
It is followed by the parade of a fake police officer and journalist for allegedly raiding the home of Justice Mary Odili.
What do you do for a living? Are you a lawyer? I'm not a lawyer.
The third is the victory dance by Professor Chukwuma Soludo after his victory at the Anambra governorship poll was confirmed by INEC. Second spot sees lawyers to Nnamdi Kanu lamenting being locked out of the court premises during the IPOB leaders' trial.
Our bags, our wig and gown, our books are inside the court, and we are just outside the court.
And here it was in June. Now they're going to be in January. That's punishment before trial, right?
While in first is the gun battle between the police and gunmen in Anambra State.
The shooting continues with the force showing enormous gallantry.
And that's the program this week. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. I'm Victor Matthias.